Hey everyone, this is Kieran from MSK Physio, and today's exercise is looking at some rolling variations, which are going to ask our abdominal muscles to do a lot more work. They're deceptively challenging, so don't feel like you have to rush through them. If you feel like they're too hard, then take a step back and look at some of our other videos. But if you're ready for some progression in building abdominal control, then this would be a nice version for you. So when we're talking about control, we're not talking about rigidity to the point of loss of movement. What we're talking about is for there to be a movement at our triaxial joints, there needs to be some relative trade-off, right? There needs to be less movement happening in other places so that we can anchor somewhere and create all this other movement through our limbs. And so that's where the torso control side of it comes in. Now, we're not talking about like isolating just a TVA or isolating just the multifidi. These things are going to work in conjunction with other muscles. But what we have to think about is the biomechanical side of it, in that, say for example, with say our internal oblique or a TVA, the attachments of those muscles, if for example I'm on my back, which you'll see in a moment, and I can't bring my ribs down, then I know I don't have as much control over those muscles because those are the attachment points and they do that job, they pull the ribs down. And if I can't pull my ribs down, then that means I'm not doing the job of that muscle. But we're not saying that you have to be able to isolate that muscle, because that's near impossible. What we're saying is, can you just do the action that that muscle's capable of? Then the second step is adding variables. So ball is a great option for that. If you don't have something like this, you could use a short foam roller, you could use a shoebox. Anything that's just going to bridge this gap you'll see between your hands and your knees. Eventually you won't need that though. You'll be able to go into touching your knees with your hands. But let's go through some of these progressions, okay? So first thing to think about is you want to create some fixation points. So if I have the ball here, this position has the potential for a lot of people for their ribs to come up. Now maybe they don't have the range through the front of their rib cage to be able to depress and bring down their rib cage without letting their neck start to lift into this position. If that's you, then give yourself a pillow, okay? If you though can bring that rib cage down, add a little exhalation to help get that final bit of movement, the goal is to try and keep it here while the neck stays nice and long. So you're trying to be as long and as tall as you can, while you be as wide as you can. Then you're going to create some fixation. So I'm pushing into the ball with my hands, and I'm also pushing in with my knees. I'm only doing enough though to keep the ball from falling, right? I'm not going into a max effort thing. So if I hold this, now can I roll onto my side? And then can I come back? And notice I'm not lifting my head to help out. Now, what a lot of people are going to struggle with, and I'll show you from this angle here, which is part of the reason we do this exercise, is that when I roll to the right, people are going to lead with their hips or their shoulders first. And the goal of this exercise is not to say that that leading with one or the other is bad, but the goal is, if you wanted to, could you also lead them as one unit? Could you just go together as a unit? And that requires this abdominal control to keep the ribs and the pelvis approximated, right? The attachment ends having tension at both. And if you're not able to connect with that idea, you can connect that with this ball, right? Now I'm connecting my hands and my knees so that when I roll, I'm keeping tension into the ball, and then I'm rolling sideways and coming back. And you notice I'm not going with my hips first. See how the ball twists? If I go hands first, ball twists. So it's a really nice learning tool. If I go left and then come back, left and come back, okay? So nice and simple in terms of talking about it, but if this is hard for you, it'll be very, very hard. You might only get 3 reps before you feel like you fatigue or can't do that movement anymore. As always, think about what else these muscles do. If they exhale, which they do, that's abdominal muscles, then add some exhalation to help assist the movement, okay? Really, really nice exercise. Now, if we want to bias certain muscles, what we want to start doing is bringing in different fixation points, right? So this would be like a version 2.0. So if you watched our other video on obliques, you'll know that the internal and the external oblique have some different jobs. I'm going to push my right hand and my right knee together, and now I'm going to try and do that same roll, going to the right and then going to the left. And what it's doing is it's just encouraging for me, maybe that external oblique that doesn't want to do that roll. Now the internal oblique would be the opposites. So left knee, right arm, same thing. Can I roll as a unit, or am I leading more with my hips or my shoulders? It's kind of like an isometric in one direction, and then the other direction is resisting the muscle lengthening. And I come back, okay? So some of these ideas I picked up from Kathy Dooley, who's a fantastic instructor and very knowledgeable anatomist, chiropractor, along with instructor for her own Immaculate Dissection series and NKT. So if you're looking for maybe some more ideas on these muscles, I'd check out her blog, which is drdooleynoted.com, I believe. Do a good Google search of it, and just have a look through her blog history. There's some tremendous articles on there that are very digestible and readable to the layman, which will give you a lot more insight into maybe how these muscles operate and work. But these are things I picked up from her, and I've played around with a little bit, as you do with every patient. Everyone's a little bit different. It's more about the principles. So just referencing my sources and appreciating how she's contributed to my body of knowledge. So these are super, super useful exercises, and if it's just one of those things where, like, if it's hard to do, then that's what's worth doing, right? We're having this conversation with a patient the other day, and it's just about sharing that, sometimes you got to go for the low-hanging fruit. What am I going to benefit from the most? And a lot of times that's just what's most challenging. Doesn't mean it's easy, but you're going to get better faster if you go for the things that are harder to do. And this is just one of those exercises. You might be thinking, I want to get up and do some Pallof presses or throwing exercises, and you'll get other benefits from those. But if the focus is that you're wanting abdominal control and stability and exhalation power, then if you can't do this, you're not going to be able to express it in a more complex environment. So work on these building blocks and then start getting into the improvisation of using these with other things. So yeah, enjoy. If you like this video, then please hit like below. Otherwise, to check out more of our content in the future, you can subscribe to our channel by clicking our logo over here. And to check out our latest video, click up here.